to Senator Bach, chair of the committee, and all the committee members for taking the time to visit Oak Park Heights and to listen to our little presentation about why we're seeking funding through the bonding bill. I'd like to also recognize that she can't be here today, is Senator Housley has been a real champion, working with us on all of these issues. So, and I think all of you know that she turned up or tested positive for COVID on Tuesday, so that's why she's not here. She said, "Go ahead and tell everybody." Yeah. It doesn't have the stigma that it once did. We assume she was in Florida. No, she travels a lot, but this isn't one of those. So I'd like to welcome Senator Bach. Would you like to come forward and say some things?
I can tell just by briefly looking at the sheet, I understand the problem. I was tax chair when we went through a process of changing the valuations on personal property on power plants. And at that time, in fact, Representative Lincheski and I she was the tax chair in the House. We did a transition aid for those cities to help them bridge all the loss of all that tax capacity. So we'll certainly take a look at something like that for you to help mitigate the property tax impacts of the closure of the plant. So, I'm Tom Bach. I represent a large piece of northeastern Minnesota, all of the North Shore of Lake Superior, along the Canadian border. 28 below where I live this morning, so a little chilly. Interestingly, Lake Vermilion was 28 below. International Falls, which is in my district, was 26 below. So hopefully that warm spell's coming south.
Tom, is that without wind chill?
Yeah. So I've been in the Senate quite a while. I was in the House before that, and so the Arrowhead region is where I represent. I want to give the other committee members an opportunity to introduce themselves, and you'll see we're kind of from all around the state. I did talk with Senator Housley this morning, and she's sad she couldn't be here, but this whole COVID thing has disrupted an awful lot of moving around for people, and that's what she's caught up with her family right now. So, and it's her birthday of all things. So, in fact, her exact words in a text she sent me was, "What a sucky birthday." But she does a good job, a very good job on your behalf at the Capitol. So you're lucky to have her. Gary, you want to go first?
I'm Gary Games, represent Senate District 16, which is 6 counties in southwest Minnesota, in Redwood Falls, which is halfway between Minneapolis and Sioux Falls.
Morning, I'm Senator Ann Johnson Stewart. I represent Plymouth, Minnetonka, and Woodland. This project is funny because I worked on the construction of that bridge, and I spent hours looking at this plant going, I wish, too bad they can't get rid of that plant. This is great. So I'm excited to hear your proposal.
Hi, I'm Senator Sam Pappas from St. Paul, a little bit to the west of you, and I'm also the minority lead on the committee. And I was just going to text Karen happy birthday.
It's Senate Chuck. Morning, I'm Chuck Wigger, just down the road, Maplewood. I'm in my 26th year. I've spent my entire life in this area and have enjoyed this particular area, especially the burn.
Eric.
Eric Pratt, I represent Scott County to the southwest. This is my 9th year in the Senate, but first year on the bonding committee, so thank you for having us this morning.
Good morning, I'm Gene Dornick, District 27, which is the southeast part of the state. Austin, Evergreen, bigger communities, and this is
That's the members that are with us. I think we have a couple stragglers, maybe due to the weather, but the others that are traveling with us are legislative staff. Who are critically important to our work when we get back to the Capitol here and start trying to assemble a bill for the sessions. Look forward to hearing about the challenge you have of replacing all this lost tax capacity and infrastructure that's needed to do that development.
Thank you, Senator Bach. I'd like to recognize also our council members in the back is Mike Runk, Carly Johnson, Chuck Doherty, and then our staff members, our assistants, city administrator Jennifer Pinsky, and our finance director Betty, who keeps us on track. As you mentioned with the transition aid, I remember testifying quite a few times for the Coalition of Utility Cities with the needs that power plant cities need. And then you mentioned about the bridge, being down there a lot over the impact of what our city took when that bridge was built. I'm going to cheat and put my glasses on so I get the high points. You'll see the drone footage that's going on the screens, and Excel was nice enough to provide that for us, so you didn't have to try and go out to the plant on a day like today and see that 170 acres. But you can see the amount of space that the plant itself takes up, the storage for the coal. There's 170 acres there. The plant will be retired in 2028, which is much sooner than we were anticipating. It was supposed to be 2040, so this kind of caught us off guard.
Wow.
So the city's been working really hard to think ahead of the game. You know, we put together an advisory panel, which is many of the same people that were working on the St. Croix River crossing. You know, keeping in mind it's Wild and Scenic River, so the Park Service, DNR, all the different agencies, surrounding communities have all been involved in that. We're a city under 5,000. Unfortunately, we don't get local government aid. When that plant closes, it's close to 40% of our tax base, which we're going to lose. Beyond that, we also have many things, you can't really see it here, but we have a lot of things that don't pay taxes. The Met Council Waste Treatment Plant, the Oak Park Heights Maximum Security Prison, Stillwater Senior High School, and a few other things. This is going to bring a lot of change to our city. It also brings a big opportunity for redevelopment. Panel has pretty much come to a consensus that it's going to be should be multi-use, housing, businesses, bring jobs back. The plant currently has about 100 employees there now, but then when they have maintenance times go on, they have other people coming and going, which, you know, they go to our gas stations and restaurants and help out in that way. You're gonna have to forgive me. I'm allergic to winter. So with not being local government aid, when we lose that tax base, that burden falls on our residents and our businesses, unfortunately. And also in consideration is we're one of the largest contributors to the fiscal disparities bill. So what happens to Oak Park Heights also affects the school districts, the county. It's the trickle-down effect that it's not just our city, but it will affect. So we're requesting in the bonding bill the $5 million. You have the handout which shows what the plan is to be. Right now there is no utilities down there for sewer, storm sewer, water. The object is to get ahead of it, get all the infrastructure in, so that it's ready to go for redevelopment when the plant closes. Yes.
I don't want to interrupt you, but why wasn't there sewer and water connected to the plant?
When the plant was built, they had wells down there and they discharge into the river. So there was never a need for any of that.
Where's
And
the
they have
sewage
septic.
go?
Septic.
Well, they must
Yeah, it
put
goes
water.
to the, so we've got a line, a very small, I'm Brian Dean, director of the plant down there, so we have water wells that we use, private wells for our water supply. And then we've got a lift station and a very, what is this, like a 6-inch,
4-inch lift.
4-inch lift station, so it's very undersized if you're gonna do any development.
It's just
down
for the
there.
toilets and the.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
It's not ready for a full development.
Yeah. So this would be like putting in an interceptor or
They must pull a lot of water out of the river for the cooling pumps.
Yeah, for circulating water for cooling of the systems, it just recirculates right in and out. There's no contact, doesn't touch anything.
wow.
But obviously to do some type of redevelopment, to have housing and things, it's going to need bigger capacity than what's provided out there right now. And like I said, the plan is to have housing, have it be accessible for visitors. They can enjoy the St. Croix River, whether it's going to be a boat launch. I mean, a master plan obviously isn't in place yet, but the concept is there of what we would like to see there. Try to have open space so that Park Service is happy, the DNR is happy, everybody's happy, and something our city can be really proud of. So we're really hoping that you will consider our request for this to get this started. And I'm going to have our city engineer, Lee Mann. He's going to go through a little bit more of the detail as to where things are going to go, and you can probably see it on the drone footage as well. And I did forget to mention that because I didn't see Eric behind the board. Our city administrator, Eric Johnson, and city engineer, Lee Mann can go through some of this and any questions then.
I'm sorry, I just have another quick question. Because I had a coal burning plant by Excel in my district, and it's
Yes.
actually converted to natural gas. But they're going to totally close this plant.
Right, this one could not be converted to natural gas, and in some of the other plants, they were able to convert to wind or solar.
Yeah.
This is not conducive to that.
Okay.
And then also as part of this, many of you know how what happened like in Granite Falls. That plant closed and it sat there empty for 15 years. We don't want to see that happen here. So that's why Excel, we've all been working really well together to get this plan moving.
Okay, thanks.
Lee?
Good morning. As the mayor mentioned, my name is Lee Mann. I'm the city engineer here in Oak Park Heights. I will just briefly go through some of the details of the proposed infrastructure that would ultimately serve the redeveloped King plant. We've assumed that there's approximately 80 acres to be developed. And currently, as we just talked about, the site has its own wells for water supply and a small lift station for sewage discharge. Our initial analysis assumes either commercial, industrial, or residential mixed use, including public access, parks, recreational spaces, and natural areas established to be in harmony with the St. Croix River National Scenic Riverway. So first of all, the trunk water main that we're looking at bringing into the site to supply the future development with its water needs, we're looking at bringing in these two lines that would then come together in this area. The first line would start up at 58th and 95, 12-inch main, and then over here at 56th Street, we would bring in an 8-inch main, bring them together, and bring them into the site, which would, again, be adequate for the redevelopment that we're looking at. The sanitary sewer, we are proposing a significantly larger lift station for the discharge of the sanitary sewer for the redevelopment. It would go up north along 95 and end up connecting into the Met Council interceptor. And for storm sewer, the storm sewer management, we would have to meet rate control, water quality, and volume reduction requirements. We are looking at putting in infiltration type ponds in these areas of the site. Filtration ponds. Filtration ponds are ponds that allow the water to soak through a soil layer and then be discharged through a pipe underneath. Due to site conditions, infiltration would not be allowed because the water table is so high. And so that's how we would deal with the stormwater issues. So that is, in a nutshell, what we're proposing. And so if there are any questions, I would attempt to answer that.
What will the condition of the site be when Excel leaves? Will it be leveled? Is there,
Are they going to tear down the plant?
yeah, what salvage is there?
Yeah, that's a question I think that's probably better for Brian.
Yeah, so will be a phased approach, probably multiple years. First one will be remediation. We'll remediate it to whatever we determine, or it's determined that the level that it needs to agree it needs to be for its future use, and then we'll go into a demolition of the plant. So we'll start off with the buildings, and then do the main plant building.
You have to do that. Excel's not doing it or paying for it.
Excel.
Oh, I'm sorry. You are Excel.
Yep.
Sorry.
Yep. Yeah, so Excel will pay for that. One thing of note, though, we are going to retain the substation that's there. That's a main interconnect for the Twin Cities of Western Wisconsin. So that substation and the connecting lines will be retained in those transmission corridors.
So in something like this, I'm a new senator, so it's a very basic question. Do you sell the land to them, or do you give it to them, or does it become,
Typically,
whose land is it?
What we've done in the past is we'll enter a conditional use agreement or a memorandum of understanding to have others utilize the land. So High Bridge Plant, for example, we entered into a memorandum of understanding for an area that used to be the coal yard, now that's a dog park. It's other areas. Black Dog, we've done an agreement with Minnesota DNR for the use of it as a wildlife sanctuary. So typically we've retained the land, but we have found other methodologies to utilize it for other uses.
We have done that with Excel in the past. There's, I'll show you here on the map. It's, okay, here's Stagecoach. You can't really see it here, but this is where all the fly ash was stored. It's conveyed to the city. It's a park. We were able to put trails through, put a playground through. So it's reutilizing the land that once was Excel's for the city's purposes.
Is it your land now, or is it?
It's in perpetuity with an agreement with Excel. So the city plows it, the city takes care of it.
So I'm thinking about the property tax impacts of all this. Have you done any study at all about how potentially it impacts the fiscal disparities distribution when you lose all that commercial tax capacity?
We have, Betty had done one a couple of years ago, just looking at what the impacts would be. It probably should be updated as we're going through the feasibility study and all these studies right now. Obviously, all of you know that the studies cost money to go through to do those all. But we do have that from a couple of years ago.
We actually, I think with our group that we have set up and we're doing a study on it, they have updated that. The big impact I think you have to think about is Oak Park Heights losing that. So if there's no replacement, our tax rate goes from like 53 to 78. It's a huge loss for the city. Not only that, if we had to issue bonds and put in this infrastructure, it's way beyond what the taxpayers should be paying or could even pay at this point to extend that infrastructure down to that plant. So we're just a little 4,000 people, and so it's going to be a big impact on us financially. That's why we're trying to plan for it, trying to figure out exactly what we have to do to our budget to cut. Where can we, no matter what goes down there, probably will never replace the tax value that we get from it. So it's going to be an impact to us no matter what.
But we didn't want to sit idle and wait until the day came and went, oh, now what do we do? Or go to the point where we're down to zero and we're scrambling. We want to attract people to our city and attract businesses to our city, not scare them away that, if you move to Oak Park Heights, your taxes are going to be ridiculous.
So how many acres did you say would be helpful?
Approximately 80.
Some of that is, obviously, there's going to be storm ponds, different things that will take up acreage. But as far as how many housing units or businesses, 70 acres is what we'll be working on.
How many acres is Excel's footprint?
170.
And a big chunk of that is being reserved for the substation.
The substation, stormwater ponds, general infrastructure. 70 acres would be the total, which is still a lot of land to get. Right now we have housing shortages everywhere in the state, so housing would be important. Job replacement is another thing. Encourage jobs there, retail, businesses, whatever type of multi-use. It could be a dentist office, it could be a medical office, it could be restaurants. The market will probably drive exactly what happens with those businesses.
So to your point of you're going to retain the land and then lease back, I don't understand the disconnect. There's a disconnect for me of a dentist office or a home that's a private home. Excel isn't going to own it. Do you sell a portion of that land to a private entities? Or?
In the past, we haven't, but we haven't made a determination on what the alternate end use will be for the property. It's largely going to depend on the level of remediation that will go.
In the case of, maybe I confused you because in the case of the fly ash where it's stored right now, it's all encapsulated. Nothing can be built on it. It can't break through the cap to build anything. So parkland and trails made sense there. This is a different category. There's not an issue with fly ash that you can't build on top of. This can be built on. So I'm sorry if I confused you.
No, you're.
Yes.
So, with that, I guess one of the questions I have is that we've looked at some of these old industrial sites.
Mhm.
There's had to be soil remediation. I mean, you looked at that as part of this. Is that included in this project at all? Or?
That's, if you look on the back side, where it shows what the timeline is. It shows the environmental review and all of those things. So those are all forthcoming, but there's been issues relative that our engineers have looked at for what's coming ahead.
Is there another sheet we don't have?
No,
No.
sit back and stand here.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's on the front part.
Yeah.
Right at the bottom, it shows the timelines and what needs to be done. You know, the feasibility study, the environmental review, public comment times. It's what our schedule is for right now.
Does that have the risk of delaying phase A?
Oh, let's hope we don't have any more COVID.
No, I meant, will the environmental issues have the,
Not expected to. A lot of this area has already been reviewed, like when the bridge came through as to what's out there, so it won't be painstaking, I hope.
and has
You
it
don't think so
held
either,
with,
do you?
has it held with the condition of the soils or anything like that?
Well, we haven't done an in-depth survey yet, but if you look at the history of the plant, how our chemicals, ash, and say, regulated waste has been handled. We don't store ash or any of those materials at the plant. It gets trucked out every day, and it's the part right over here that the city is using. And currently, right now, we either ship our ash and other materials to SKE landfill in Rosemont, or we ship it up to our Sherco plant in Factor Soda. There might be some hot spots because it's been there 52 years, and you don't know what Tony Joe did in the morning, but we'll try and find as much as we can and address those. But as far as the power plant goes, that's a pretty clean facility.
How much is the city putting into this phase A?
Betty, do you have that number?
I
I'm
don't.
more
I know
interested to know
it's-
what the local match is.
Eric, you have it?
It was over.
I just checked with their 500,000. But we think we can muster, again, with a tax base loss of 35% of your ability to pay, is what can the city put on the table? But 500,000 is a lot of money for us.
But that loss wouldn't be till 2028. Right?
Say that again. Well, that's true, but we do have everything between now and then. We are also doing much like you folks. So,
Trying
and
to
this
get our ducks in a row
infrastructure
now. So we're not waiting until 2028 and then say, now what do we do? We know we have a plan in place and steps to get to where we need to be.
So it's the main trunk lines that we need to put in for water, sewer, and storm.
Correct. There'll be the other things that probably will go in, like fiber optics or things like that, but that's not something for us to worry about. It's our city infrastructure to worry about.
And you're able to do all that while the plant is still operating.
Yes. That is the plan. So 2023, as you see, is what we're looking at going for bids and starting construction. Any more questions? I'd really like to thank all of you for coming, and thank you in particular Senator Bach and Senator Housley, if she's watching. Wish you were here. And there's plenty of treats in the back, and restrooms are down the hall. Take a treat out for the bus ride, and really appreciate you coming out on such a cold day and taking the time to hear what we have to say. And if there's any questions, please contact me or staff members. We're all here to answer any questions. Thank you.
And if we can take a quick picture of the folks, well, we won't make the city folks go outside, if we can just do it right behind the chairs of the city council.
Sure. And I also want to thank Susie. She is an organizer extraordinaire. So thank you, Susie Giroux.
Hi, I'm Ann Johnson. You work for Stan.
I do.